Hey guys, Matt Dog here with another video, going second, this time on a budget. So if you liked my previous going second deck, this one should be a lot more affordable. Our first duel is going to be against Voiceless Voice. It's a new deck that just came out a day ago. It's not super intimidating. They get like one Omni Negate, and they can do a few other things, but we don't really care. They're pretty easy to blow apart with our going second deck. With this going second deck, I'm still using Slash Draw, even though it's an ultra rare. I'll explain why in the at the end of the video, but it's kind of was like a fun tech that I was playing around with. This is basically like the first duel I tried when I logged in with this budget deck when the rank restarted. So at this point, I still have no idea what Voiceless Voice does. So like I'm gonna summon a monster at some point, and then they get to like pop off and do things, and I'm like, oh wow, that's weird. But what's nice about a going second deck is you have that flexibility to not necessarily know what your opponent's doing. You just have to break their board. Okay, so Reasoning is probably one of the best cards in our deck. We just send cards from our deck to the grave, as many as possible, until we get a monster we can special summon. They choose level 2 because I think a lot of like paleo decks run level 2s. I'm not sure why. But it allows us to summon an Eldlich, which is nice. We didn't mill anything else to the grave, unfortunately. That was only like 5 cards. Only 5 cards. It's funny. Okay, so they have Cerberus. It like protects them from targeting. And it's also kind of like a solemn card where it can prevent a card from being special summoned. Interesting. Well, we have rollback. Okay. Activate card or effect. Okay, so this can still negate a rollback onto, say, a needle ceiling. But if we just get one more card that can deal with their Omni Negate, then we're good. He is being smart, though. He's not choosing to use his Omni Negate yet until we do something that, like, threatens to kill him. Slash Draw probably won't threaten to kill him, unless we draw Slash Draw, in which case we destroy all his cards and inflict 1400 and kill him. Okay, so I just think that was a funny duel. You're not, the strategy isn't to draw into Slash Draw, but mostly it's just like another way, like Reasoning, to mill a bunch of cards from your deck to the grave. Duel 2 is against a Tearlament branded Despia player. Basically, no matter what type of deck you go up against, when you're going second, you just have tons of ways to get cards from your deck to the grave. If they have like, usually they will have like one Omni Negate, which you just take out using Eldlich's in the hand effect. And then after you do that, then you just annihilate everything they have, and then you build up your board and they've lost all their resources. Okay, so Eldlich in hand effect, mostly just to get rid of a copy of Transaction Rollback. They don't have any Bestials in hand, or maybe they do, but they can't activate Branded Beast. Reasoning, okay. So Reasoning is an amazing card. It sends our Eldlich traps to grave. It sends Eldlich himself to grave. It sends Transaction Rollback and a bunch of powerful traps that it can copy to the grave. It also sends Paleo cards to the grave. This is a deck that uses a lot more Paleo cards. I don't know if I mentioned this. If you listen to the music in the background, this is the Eldlich solo mode music. Konami finally realized they have amazing original soundtracks and made it so you can choose what sound you want to play in the background. Okay. We're also playing Laundry Dragonmaid, which, if you know very much about sort of the culture around Eldlich, there's kind of a popular fan headcanon that Laundry Dragonmaid is like Eldlich's adoptive daughter because she synergizes way better in his deck than she does in like actual Dragonmaid decks. Whatever. It's just fun. Summon out Eldlich. We can't destroy Havness by card effect because otherwise she does things. So we're just gonna attack her by battle. I love the violin in this, man. Okay. We can destroy that by card effect, though. We don't care. Eldlich is obviously impervious to destruction. Okay. So we don't have a lot of interruptions right now. Well, we do have one super powerful interruption, which is Rollback, which can copy anything we want, including Needle, Sealing, Torrential, and Evenly if we want. And we have a Trap Trick, which you can go into whatever card we want. They just have a body. Laundry Trap means whenever we summon a monster, we can send the top card of our deck to the grave. Okay, this person doesn't read. He uses this to make my Eldlich have no card effects, but he activated his effect from the grave, and this stays on until the end of the next turn, no matter if they negate it or not. They fuse, so they have, obviously, Tearlament players have two fusions they can make, so they used one of them. So they're about to make their second. I'd like to just blow up all cards after they make their second fusion, and their turn is basically over. Epic choir music, oh my gosh. This is so awesome. They choose to summon Rukalos. They probably should have summoned out the bigger one to at least get rid of one of my cards. She is going to summon herself back, but we're just going to transaction roll back, blow her up again. So now they literally have nothing. I know all the cards in their grave, in their hand, on the field. They can't do anything. We're going to pop off and kill them next turn. GG. Yeah, I'll definitely do more of an explanation of the deck at the end. All right, what are we doing now? Yubel, right? Yeah, just a Yubel deck. Okay. Yeah, I think this going second deck is actually kind of cracked. I'll also show at the end my win streak. Like, I literally have played 10 games in this new season. Like, since they bumped me down from Master 1 to... since they did the update that allows you to add music to your tracks and added the Voiceless Voice cards. I've done 10 duels, and I'll show you the ranks. It's gone really well with this super budget deck. Okay. We can probably speed up through this. They're just doing... At this point, you kind of get the idea of what Voiceless Voice is doing. It's another one of those decks that's, pretty annoying, but as long as you can destroy or banish all the cards they have on the field, which, isn't that hard for our deck, then we'll be good. Also, you've seen a couple of times now, probably, that I've had Mudora in my hand. I don't know what it is, but for some reason this card is, addicted to being in my hand. What I want is for it to be in my deck, so I can, send it to grave with Reasoning, or special it summon it off of Reasoning or whatever. But I think out of the last 10 duels, it's in my hand 5 sometimes. I feel like I'm not even exaggerating. Okay. So obviously 3 material Appaloosa, a monster negate, and a link summon. And an Ash Blossom. That's a bummer. This is actually going to be pretty hard. I knew that they were going to do that. Use both of the Appaloozas. We're lucky they don't have a Called by the Grave. Yeah, unfortunately all we can do is set that card and pass. It might have been a waste. Ooh. Okay, that was such a bad choice. They decided to blow up the one card they knew what it was, which is a trap that has an effect in the grave. So they literally wasted their one targeted destroy to do nothing. Imagine if they waited until next turn to destroy the skill drain. Might be in a different position. Okay. Access code. Ooh. Okay, so access code actually can destroy skill drain because it can banish itself to... Let's slow down a bit. It can banish itself, and because it banished itself as cost, it can destroy skill drain. Okay. Now where are they going to destroy a card? Samsara is sort of their main starter. So in this case, I do destroy everything. And actually, Needle Sealing is great because it only destroys all face-up cards. So my Mudora stays undestroyed. Unfortunately, they obviously had this, so I knew they had the ability to summon it back. Whatever. What are they going to do now? That's a cool effect. Okay, being able to add continuous spells from the deck to the grave. Neat. What is this, an IP Masquerena? Underworld Goddess? Okay, what are you going to summon? The Link Monster? Okay. You can't... and I guess they didn't know what it was, but you figure even Ash Blossom has 1800 defense. I don't know. Pot of Desires is nice in a 60-card deck where you're a lot more budget. You don't really care about what cards you have anymore. It's just a straight-up Pot of Greed, basically. So they did have a Cult by the Grave that whole time? I think this might just not be the best player. It feels bad to say that, but whatever. we still get a card effect. We're going to destroy that by battle. Well, we would have liked to, but they send a Link monster to grave, and now we're just going to make Ty-Phon. So that's like the only ultra rare card that I have in my extra deck is Ty-Phon. They do make Effect Veiler to negate him, so they're going to keep their Muckraker, but like, whatever. They surrender. We had this Paleozoic card, which allows us to destroy a spell or trap, which is a lot more important in this format. There are a lot more card decks that have a single spell or trap you really want to take out. Fine, not bad. Probably a player that was making some mistakes. Voiceless Voice. Okay, here we go. Man, it's hard to do commentary because I just love the soundtrack so much. I just get vibe into it. You know, the epic cello, or I think it is a cello, not a violin. Okay, here we go. Going second. Pot of Extravagance. Right, yeah, we knew this was Voiceless Voice. Okay. So obviously we have evenly matched. It's probably going to be able to take care of one of their Omni Negates, and then a Pot of Desires, which might be able to bait out an Omni Negate, so we can get the evenly instead. It'll be interesting to see what they end on. Because I think I've seen, like, Voiceless Voice might be, like, a very consistent deck, but it seems like the end board isn't a lot stronger than, like, Sword Soul, where it's, like, an Omni Negate, like a pop or two, and then, like, maybe a monster negate. I don't know. Maybe that's, like, incorrect. We took out the one back row, which was actually a super poly, and we also got our Transaction Rollback in the grave, copied the evenly matched. Nice Omni Negate, sucker. Let's get a draw 2. Okay, and a reasoning. Yeah, get a draw 1. Go ahead. Alright, another rollback, so we're already set, and a Witch's Strike. So the reason we're running Witch's Strike right now, I'll talk about it more during the at the end of the video, but basically Voiceless Voice has so consistently been able to set up Omni Negates that Witch's Strike might be back on the menu. We'll see. Also, we managed to send the Laundry Trap to grave, which is great because it has an effect where if it's sent to grave, you can add one of the cards in your grave to your hand. Okay, so they had a full Voiceless Voice board, and now what do we have? Okay, so they have a card that can, like... Oh, wow, that's cool. So right now I'm just trying to bait them into activating their Omni Negate, because as soon as they activate an Omni Negate in response to, like, a Conquistador or a Trap Trick or something, we can use Transaction Rollback to copy... Where is it? Witch's Strike, which says, if your opponent negates the activation of card or effect, you activate this effect, destroy all cards on their field and in their hand. So basically, if he uses this guy to negate anything I do on the field, I'm going to blow up his all cards in the hand and field. I'll talk about why this is negated in a sec. Okay. So he surrenders there because I'm about to either grab a Needle Ceiling, which is going to destroy all his cards, or I'm going to grab a Torrential Tribute, and it's possible I'd be able to activate Torrential Tribute, just my voice is cracking, like the next turn really easily. So basically, like, he had absolutely nothing. If he tries to negate anything I do, I'm going to blow him up. Easy peasy. Alright, that was duel number 5, right? No, this is duel number 5 against Exosister. Yeah, I feel bad for that guy. The Laundry Dragonmaid trap, the reason I added it to the deck is because if you send a bunch of your cards from the deck to the grave, and then you also set the Laundry Trap, then you can add one of those cards from your deck to your hand. So it's kind of replacing Wanted and the Diabellstar package in our more expensive version, where activating a card that mills also gets you effectively a draw 1, but it's more like a search. The downside is that when it does that, you can't activate it for a turn. Okay. Here they are doing Exosister stuff. I choose to use Psy-Frame Gamma to destroy this. because it would be able to search out some cards. Unfortunately, they did either draw or already have a card that gets them into Martha, which is kind of their main combo piece. Yeah, when in doubt, when you're using a going second deck, just don't do anything on their turn. Wait to do it all during your turn. But in my case, I didn't have any ways to, like, get Triple Tactics Thrust to actually activate. So I just kind of risked it for the biscuit. In this case, they banish Psy-Frame Driver. They have a lot of back row. What are we going to draw into? Evenly. Perfect. This is exactly the card we needed. Thank you and goodbye. Unfortunately, we can't really do anything else. So one downside is Psy-Framegear Gamma can only activate if you also have this card in your deck or in the grave. Luckily, we used the Paleozoic card to move it from the banish pile back into the grave, and now we can use Gamma again. Jump scare. Alright, he's got one card left. We're going to activate a trap, which allows us to summon back the Paleozoic card. Unfortunately, these both are going to get banished again. If he has an Ash Blossom here, we just use Thrust. Ooh, Lost Grass. Rollback, okay, that's already a killer. But we need to get at least one good trap in grave, too. Okay, we've got some Eldlich cards to keep us rolling. Needle Sealing. Okay, perfect. So we have solid traps now. And a Laundry Dragonmaid. Oh my gosh. So she's going to mill some more cards. We're going to make sure we don't mill one of our Conquistadors. And they're just going to surrender. We just have way too much card advantage. Everything just piles up, piles up, piles up. Jeepers creepers. Okay. Well, last duel I'm going to show for this video is a Kashtira duel. Okay. Another thing that's nice about going second is, like, you can build your board so that you always are going second, because everyone else always wants to go first. Against Kashtira, because we love to use the graveyard, like, it can be tricky to actually get around them. You basically have to draw the out. In this case we do, which is a single copy of Royal Rare Dark Hole. Imagine who would win, a card from like 2002 or like a modern meta deck. Unfortunately, this is a really bad board. We have like a lot of cards that we normally don't want to have in our hand. Mudora, Psy-Frame Driver. Yeah, this card is just, like, maybe it's not in my hand as much as I think, but like, you always notice when he is. Whatever. I could just normal summon him and make Ty-Phon. Whatever. Let's see what we get before we make any rash decisions. Okay, probably grab the... Okay, so we'll grab Cursed Eldland so we can grab an Eldlich. Alright, Dark Hole. So this one card can protect itself from getting destroyed, but all the rest are gone. Yikes. They are locking up our back row, which really sucks. We can't set any cards, but we can just get rid of our useless Witch's Strike, take it out, and now he's done. Eldlich is back. Obviously, Cursed Eldland's going to send follow-up. Normal summon Mudora. GG. Alright, so we do have a non-targeting Destroy, and that's about it. And a Graveyard Shuffle with this guy. Always wait until after they activate this card's effect, not just when they put it on the field. Because if they have more in their hand, then they can just put that on the field instead. I wait until they try to special summon to pop it. And I don't think he understood the way that this combo works. Like, you negated Eldlich, but his name is still Eldlich. The card you need to negate is this guy, and you can't negate a trap. So, destroyed. Yeah, also, Eldlich's effect lingers when you summon him back from the grave. So, like, they tried to negate our Eldlich so that they could destroy him, and it doesn't matter. Goodbye. Whew. Okay, so that's a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. And I need to show some proof here. So first, I want to show you what I was dealing with. All right, so if we go to the match history, literally just the last 10 duels, like I guess they erased our previous progress when they did the update, were on a 7-game win streak with the budget version, and you saw like whatever 6 of those duels, and this duel, which it was fine, but basically it was just I hit them with evenly matched, and then they won. And this one was against Kashtira, but I didn't have the out, so pretty solid. It would take me some more time to get up to Master 1, which is where I feel really confident with my decks, but basically I haven't had as much time as I would hope lately. Let's go into the build. So this is the more recent version that didn't include Slash Draw. If you want to include Slash Draw, I'll tell you what cards to drop, but I'll do that in a bit. Okay. Budget version. What are the ultra rares in this deck? Obviously, you need 2 copies of Eldlich the Golden Lord. You can get 3 if you draw into him, whatever. Other ultra rares. If you're going to try to run a 60 card going second Eldlich deck, you should probably have grass at some point. Like, maybe you don't need it yet because Reasoning does such a great job imitating it, but like, it's an outstanding card. You want to get the investment in as soon as possible. The other card is Triple Tactics Thrust. Obviously in my expensive deck, I run it at 3. In this version, you saw I never really used it, so you could get away with replacing it with some other ultra rare card you have. Like, assuming you're like brand new to the game, maybe you can replace it with like a Called by the Grave or some other ultra rare card that you've crafted for some other deck before. Whatever. We also have 3 copies of Transaction Rollback. Transaction Rollback is a fantastic trap, and it's what makes this deck work. Reasoning. Grass looks greener. Send 1,000,000 traps from the deck to the grave. Banish everything. Destroy everything. On your opponent's turn, they start doing stuff. Activate again. Destroy everything. Easy. And finally, in the extra deck, I have 2 copies of Ty-Phon. You should get 1 copy of Ty-Phon if you're brand new to the game, or if you haven't really been building these cards. It's just any deck that you have, you can put Ty-Phon in. The only reason you would include Ty-Phon in your extra deck is because, like, your deck has so many important cards that in the extra deck that you just can't afford a single space to have an amazing generic card that's always awesome going second. If you don't want to craft 2 of them, you could replace this other one with like a Zeus, because again, you should have a Zeus in a lot of your decks going forward. It's just a Zeus, like you should have a Zeus at some point, but whatever. So you could replace this with the Zeus, whatever. So at this point, you're like 3 ultra rares, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, yeah, you could get away with not having this. You could get away with not having those. You could even get away with having 1 less of this. But this is like about as budget of any deck that you can get without just doing a pure like stun deck that has 0 ultra rare cards, in my opinion. You also saw that I was running Slash Draw earlier, so you'll notice that I have 7 copies of this, and we cannot dismantle any of them. That's because if you play Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, you get these things called legacy card tickets. You can get them to get a bunch of like generic older cards randomly pulled, and I've pulled 7 copies of Slash Draw. So for me, this is a budget card because it cost me like almost nothing, literally nothing. Like I just accumulated this over the course of playing, and it's a resource that goes into like nothing else. That said, if you don't have it yet, I probably wouldn't necessarily recommend spending ultra rare dust on it. If you also need to spend that on things like Solemn Strike, Lord of Heavenly Prison, I don't know, more copies of Triple Tactics Thrust, Grass, and so on. And, okay, so now we've talked about sort of the ultra rare investments you're dealing with, let's talk about what we're doing that keeps us in a budget and allows us to do things a little more cheaply. First, we have the Gamma package. All of our monsters synchronize with Reasoning, because it has an effect where if you excavate a card from your deck that can be normal summoned or set, then you special summon it and it stops Reasoning. I don't want to have more than like 5 cards that can stop Reasoning, even in a 60 card deck. I want drawing Reasoning to be like a game winner, in the same way that activating Grass is usually a game winner in my more expensive decks. So all the monsters that can stop Reasoning, obviously Eldlich can be normal summoned or special summoned. Lava Golem cannot. If you have this in your hand, you are basically using it to take out any 2 of your opponent's monsters, tributing them. It has nothing they can respond to. Doesn't matter if they have a monster that's an Omni Negate. Doesn't matter if they have a monster that's unaffected by all card effects and is invincible. Lava Golem just consumes both of them. They do get a free monster with 3,000 attack, but they also lost 2 of their most important monsters. Because it cannot be normal summoned or set, does not stop Reasoning. Psy-Frame Gamma, you saw it's basically a hand trap that negate and destroys a specific monster effect. It's very solid, does not interfere with Reasoning. Mudora, Laundry Dragonmaid, and Psy-Frame Driver all do interfere with Reasoning, so that's 5 cards. One of the reasons I'm saying this is, again, I'm assuming this video is for people who are a little bit newer to Master Duel. You don't want to fill your deck with like, I have a bunch of copies of Ash Blossom and Maxi. I've heard that those cards are really good. I'll just throw them in this deck, in replacing some of the ultra rare cards like Grass and stuff. Those cards, Maxi and Ash Blossom, turn off Reasoning or make it short circuit, make it become a lot less efficient. So you want to have cards in general that are not going to trigger that. In general, I don't think that Mudora is that good of a pick. Like you saw in like all the duels I used, he kind of didn't come up very much. It was a neat idea, but I probably would be better off just dropping him in exchange for Backjack, which is another card that's not an ultra rare. If it gets sent to the grave, then we can like search for a trap and then set the trap and be able to activate the trap that turn. So honestly, this Backjack could probably replace the Mudora. Whatever. We also have Laundry Dragonmaid, which I think is kind of fun. It's a part of this little like Dragonmaid set. The Laundry Dragonmaid sends an extra 3 cards from your deck to the grave. It doesn't really do anything other than that. It's just like a level 2 monster. We also have the Laundry Trap, which it has the field effect where every time you special or normal summon a monster, you can send a card from your deck to the grave. It has decent synergy with the Paleo cards, but it's not super amazing. It's more used for the graveyard effect, where you basically get to add a card from your graveyard back to your hand, but you can't activate that card until the turn after your next turn, so it kind of has to sit there negated for a turn or 2. It's probably more good for adding a card from your graveyard, like that you want to like. I don't know. I'm not totally sold on this card. I think it's an interesting one though. Anyways, we also have a copy of Dark Hole. You saw it comes up sometimes. It's just a great board breaker, blows up all your opponent's cards. Obviously, there's like Fire Kings and a few other decks, Horus decks that are like immune to these sorts of non-targeting destruction effects, but I think it's nice. A lot of the normal spells, so Dark Hole, Reasoning, Pod Desires, and so on, synergize with Triple Tactics Thrust, which is why you would run 3 copies of these in the more expensive version of the deck. Soul Release, you've seen it in my previous video, banish 5 cards in the graveyard. It's really nice in a meta where there's a lot of decks that have cards in their graveyard. It's cool. Reasoning is kind of like your best card. Reasoning is a card that kind of came up because I was using this budget version. Like in my expensive version, I used the Diabell Star package, the Horus package, and you can't run those with Reasoning because they have too many monsters. Like having more than 5 that you can normal or special summon, or normal summon or set, kind of makes it not as valuable of a card. So actually going back to a deck that doesn't have monsters could be interesting. Like going for a full Paleo Eldlich deck might be an interesting choice. Pot of Desires is basically a draw 2. We don't really care as much about any particular cards we might banish. You probably want to make sure you have at least one Eldlich in the grave or on the field or whatever already, but you know, it's nice. Foolish Burial Goods, send a Transaction Rollback or whatever to the grave. That grass looks greener, is amazing. Sends like 15 or 20 more cards from your deck to the grave. We talked about why it's worth the Ultra Rare Dust even in a budget version. Pot of Desires and Pot of Prosperity, those are really nice. Get a draw 2 or get a mill 6, it can absolutely save your deck. These are necessary. Cursed, and then Triple Tactics Thrust, if they activate anything, you can search out a normal spell, usually to your hand, because they'll usually still have a monster on the field when you activate this, because we're going second. Cursed Eldland, it's another great card for going second, because you add an Eldlich to your hand, you have to get rid of one of your spells or traps, but after you, with your Eldlich to target one of their cards, and then after that, it's fuel for your Eldlich to come back. Fantastic. It's like an independently, if you resolve this card, you get a target and send to grave, and you can summon an indestructible 3500 attack monster. Pretty solid. We also have our go-to card, so we can either copy with a transaction rollback, or because a big part of our deck is like destroy all of our opponent's cards, and then go to their turn and use a single trap to just annihilate whatever they're trying to do. Torrential Tribute and Needle Sealing are great for just keeping our opponents in the ditch, making sure they can't get back. We're running triple copies of all the Paleo cards, or these Paleo cards, mostly because originally I had taken the Paleos out, I'll show at the end of this section, and had Slash Draw included. This is a Paleo that allows you to destroy a single important spell or trap on the field, which can be nice because you're trying to, you know, there are some decks that have really important spells and traps you want to take out. Voiceless Voice does, Horus does, Kashtira does, Branded does, Eldlich sometimes does, Labyrinth, take out the field spell and you're halfway to victory. Yubel obviously is a super important card. Like, there are a lot of really important individual spells or traps you just want to take out, so it is worth it. And more importantly, it's like the part of the Paleo strategy where you're constantly summoning these back. We also have Paleozoic Dinomischus. Discard a card, target a card to banish it. Obviously, you can do a monster or a spell or trap. It's a nice piece of removal. And because we have a lot of cards that might get stuck in our hand, like a Mudora, a Driver, a Transaction Rollback, it can be nice to have an option to discard. In this budget version of the deck, we don't have Diabellstar and we don't have Horus, which is normally the way that we would discard cards that we want out of our hand. So this sort of takes up that role. It's rare to like get value off of discarding, but this is one case where that's possible. Marella is obviously the most important one. It's the one we usually run in our normal Eldlich decks. You send a Transaction Rollback or any important spell or trap from your deck to the grave. It's part of the strategy of blow up your opponent's board, and then on turn 3, when it goes back to their turn, you do one thing and they can't recover. Leanchoilia is another card that a lot of Paleo players have been using, and it has some nice value. Obviously, if you are using the Eldlich engine, you could recycle some of your Eldlich cards. They only go back to the grave, but you know, that can still get you some value. More likely you're going to recycle a Transaction Rollback, or in the case of our video we just did, you can recycle a Psy-Frame Driver. Not a bad choice. It's hard because it's not really an interruption against our opponent, but because we're going second, we're kind of counting on having done other things to defeat our opponent. 3 copies of Evenly Matched, it's amazing. No other words for it. Trap Trick obviously gives you a lot of flexibility. You can only activate once per turn. In a general rule, I only want to have 2 cards that I can only activate once per turn. But because it's so good, we just get away with it. 2 copies of Witch's Strike. Honestly, this should probably be one copy of Witch's Strike and one copy of Elemental Burst. Like, I'm probably not going to trap trick into a Witch's Strike. More likely, I'm either going to set it or copy it with the Transaction Rollback. With Voiceless Voice now having access to Omni Negates all the time, and a lot of people using it, and with Dragon Master Magiate, let me just quickly check. And with this card showing up a lot more, negate the activation if you do destroy it. I suspect there will be a lot more decks that have Omni Negates, which will allow us to use Witch's Strike more often. It could be cool, could be an interesting. It's basically Elemental Burst, but also destroy the cards in your opponent's hand. Okay, Transaction Rollback we talked about. It's an amazing card, worth the ultra rare investment. Skill Drain, it's an amazing card. You flip it on your opponent's turn where they are desperately trying to cling on for life and you just snuff them out. Our Eldlich cards is the standard package, non-targeting destruction, non-targeting banish. The Laundry Trap allows you to recycle cards. I'm not sure I'm convinced on it though, because, you know, you recycle a card and then whatever, you have to get rid of it again. Okay, I'll show an alternate version in a sec. We just have one Synchro 8 card because you can make it with your Gamma once you summon them. There are better Synchro 8s that you can make if you have the ultra rares for it, like Omega and like Synchron Dragon. But for now, it's just like a cheap card, allows you to destroy a bunch of your opponent's cards. Whatever. We have a lot of Paleo cards in our deck. These all show up as level 2s. Same as Laundry Dragonmaid, it's a level 2. So we're running a little bit of a level 2 package. Obviously we have this Paleo, which allows you to, you would summon it in defense mode. You would use it to detach a Paleo, add a Paleozoic trap to your hand, and then you can activate that trap from your hand. So you could grab a spell Trap Destruction or a, targeted banish. It's also unaffected by other monster effects. It's cool. You have Sky Cavalry Centuria. Honestly, I should just do this here. You should probably just be running a Zeus instead of double Ty-Phon, in all honesty. As you can see, I'm clearly modifying this deck as I go. But it cannot be destroyed in battle, so you make it, you attack, you make Zeus, you take out all their cards. Another great going second opportunity. And Soul Sweeper is a card that you just detach it and then you banish one of your opponent's cards until their next end phase. So it's basically out of the game for long enough for you to do everything you need to do. Ty-Phon is amazing for going second. Like, you can literally reasoning, summon Laundry Dragonmaid. At that point you've got like a Transaction Rollback with like an Elemental Burst or a Needle Sealing or something in the grave. XYZ summon Ty-Phon, make it so they can't activate any of their cards. Maybe they have a Baronne de Fleur, so they can't omni-negate anything, blow up all their cards. Easy peasy. And then we have these, the Link cards. These are mostly just to get your Eldlich traps into the grave. A Link Spider, an Imduk, which is better than a Link Spider because it has this effect that allows you to destroy a card. But sometimes you just care about having a downward-facing arrow, which would allow you to Link Summon again without using the Link Spider as material. I don't know, whatever. And we have a couple of the Knightmare cards. You never really use them because you don't want to discard if you don't have to. Destroy a monster, destroy a spell trap. Obviously the Charmers, Light and Dark. Do we even have any dark monsters? Okay, so clearly this should just be a second. You can tell that I basically did 10 duels and made this video. Okay, just a second Light Charmer is probably fine. Equimax gains a bunch of attack, allows you to instantly kill your opponent. Vampire Fascinator allows you to steal an opponent's monster from the grave. So that's actually really good. I never end up making her just because, like, it costs you 3 monsters, and that ends up being such a cost that you can normally use to just instantly kill your opponent. But like, if you're desperate, it'll get the job done. As long as it includes at least one Eldlich monster, all the extra Paleos should mean that it's easier to make. Last, you can also make Topological Bomber. These are just like examples of really cheap extra deck monsters that you can make using a bunch of generic link material, which is what all the Paleos get you. Um, Destroy all monsters in the main monster zone, so it's kind of like a dark hole that you can summon. And then it also can help you one turn kill your opponent by inflicting burn damage. Cool options, cool deck, mostly budget just with these guys. I'll quickly show something else too. So drop the spell Trap Destruction, drop one of the banishes, you don't need any more, and probably drop the Laundry Trap, honestly. And then you can throw in, if you got these for free like I did, then you can actually just throw in the 3 slash draws. They're great because they allow you to discard cards you want to get rid of, like a rollback. It's amazing going second because it gets value off of having a number of cards your opponent controls, and it allows you to recycle cards. So it's especially good to have a slash draw plus like a grass or a reasoning or something. Let me know in the comments if it's okay to include slash draw in a budget version of the deck. I'm going to try to get this deck up to Master 1 probably by next weekend. Let me know if it's okay to include this or not, or other things that you want to see in this deck or things like it. Otherwise, one final thing I want to show. If you like the Eldlich theme song, you can acquire it from the dual field. Which one did I get? It was the Archfiend Palindrome. So this is the field that allows you to listen to Eldlich in your in-game music. You also have to go to game settings and make sure that the dual field background setting is for your field. You don't want to listen to whatever music your opponent has on. You want to listen to your music as an epic choir and a cello strums the victory of Eldlich the Golden Lord. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.